Well, good afternoon, Dan. Dan Gutierrez,
Afternoon, Mr. Keller.
my dear friend and colleague in this accountability practice, and welcome to everybody who likes to watch these podcasts that Dan and I do. And this particular podcast is focused on creating the future that we want. We base the conversation that we have on the old ancient comment from Socrates who said, "The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new." And so that's our focus here. Um, Many of us have learned throughout our lives to drive, drive, and create our lives by looking in the rearview mirror. But here we're focusing on taking our eyes off the rearview mirror and looking toward the future. And we focus entirely on the accountability practice that our mentor John Donovan taught us. And before we got started tonight, Dan and I were talking about the what we want to talk about, and the truth is, what we always want to talk about is just the way this practice works. And we have different focuses, but it always comes back to the accountability tree itself. And so one of the things that uh, often happens when we're doing this recovery work is aha moments show up and things become like guiding principles. We came up with one the other night, and one of the principles that you taught me a long time ago, Dan, was that everybody who shows up in my life has something to teach me that only that person can teach me. And the truth is, everyone has something to teach us if we orient ourselves to that. So I wanted to just ask you a little bit about that, and then let's see if we can't bring that back to the accountability practice itself. How is that relevant to our practice?
Uh, okay, so for me, if I answer the question, the eternal question, what is it I want that I don't have? And if I answer that question is I want to learn who I am as a human being on the planet, then I have I guess at last count, 8 billion people, 8 billion teachers that could teach me something about myself if I choose to see them as my teachers. And when I first got into this process, I always used to be frustrated because my awareness was everybody's triggering me, and then it became self-evident that I'm self-triggering. And the rest of the population, if I have the intention to figure out or come to a greater understanding of myself as a human being on the planet, life is happening for me, and everybody I meet has the capacity to teach me something about me that only they can. And we all have great teachers. And for me, it was who triggers me the most? Who's the person that I can't stand? Who's the one that really irks me that I just think about and um, and then I realized that person it could teach me something about myself that only that person can, because they're the only ones who trigger me in that way. And like I said, when I use the word trigger me, um, they don't trigger me. I'm self-triggering. So that's why they can teach me something about myself, because maybe up until this point, nobody's ever gotten under my skin or just, pulled me, pulled me to thinking about them and complaining about them. And what it becomes, or what the awareness can be, is what is it about them that I don't like about myself? And then it's just like, wow, okay. And then there's a lot of teachers out there for me. So, and then I believe, we can call this projection as well. But for me, it's then the simple process is, what's the judgment about them, and can I and will I be willing to own what my judgment of them is, and go from there. And that's a lesson to be learned that person could only teach me. So everybody's my teacher, if I choose to see them that way. Or I can choose to see them as the thorn in my side, the suffering that I create by blaming them for making me uncomfortable, can't stand them. Or I can see them as my greatest teacher that'll teach me something about myself if I understand the accountability practice and I'm willing to own the judgments that I have of them. That's how it works for me.
You know, as I'm listening to your share there, it seems to be an elaboration of the principle that life happens for me, not to me. And that in this particular instance, this is actually making it very specific. Because also, as you were sharing, I was thinking about how even today, as enlightened as I am, I still find myself angry at other people. I still find myself judging them, and it almost always is accompanied with a certain charge, an emotional charge. You know, we can call it anger, but there's also something else there. There's something maybe like resentment. And one of the things that I've learned in doing the work is that's an automatic invitation to take a look inside, and it didn't come easy, because as you said, these things that we see in other people that make us angry or resentful or sometimes even emotionally violent to the point of wanting to do bodily harm to another person. These actually are thoughts or beliefs or feelings about ourselves that we've repressed them so deeply into what Jung called the shadow that they leak out onto other people.
Yes.
And so let's talk about how do we own these things when we've spent a lifetime not owning them? What allows us to take a look at those things as possibly ours without turning that emotion onto ourselves that we've turned onto other people?
So for me, when I realized my judgment of others is the judgment of myself, start off with, that's me seeing my shadow in someone else, and the shadow is meant to stay unconscious and keep me unaware that I have the same behavior. So here again, for me, it starts all off with the intention. If I don't have the intention, then this information, what is it I want that I don't have? This information is really hard to correlate with what's going on. So it's if I have the intention to come to a greater understanding of myself as a human being, okay, and then life happens for me, and then what I see in others is me, then I can take it back to the accountability tree. And you know, my judgment, we have right now, we have one of my greatest teachers right now happens to be running for the presidency of the United States.
Kamala Harris?
So no. Yes, and yes. She does teach me that I have other qualities other than the negative qualities that I see in the other candidate. And I found myself, you know, saying and judging things of this, that, this, and that, and then it's like, wow, okay, can you own that about yourself? Or can you say that you're a liar? Yeah, okay, I'm a liar. Take that to the accountability tree, and own it. So it's no longer hidden from me. when I can be accountable for it, that part of my shadow is now being exposed to the light of accountability and awareness. So
Well,
what else do, go ahead.
and what the difference also is that we are asked to do this without blaming or judging.
Correct.
One of the reasons I found it hard initially when we were being taught this practice is because I automatically carried that blame and judgment that I was putting on the other person onto myself. And of course, that's the origin of all this stuff. There's something wrong with me. There's something so badly wrong with me. In your case, let's just say I'm such a liar that I can never ever really tell the truth. And you can't go through life believing that all you can do is lie. And so we tend to push that down into deeply into the unconscious. But now we're seeing it, like I said, it leaks out and we see it elsewhere.
Right.
So if you can own, or if I can own, I'm a liar and not make that mean anything right or wrong, it's just a fact. It goes back to what accountability means. It's just I'm just accounting for what's going on.
Correct. And it
If
then
I,
it becomes
because if I can't do that, I can't work with it.
right. It becomes a belief about whether I should or should not be, and then I put judgment, and there's a narrative on it, and then it doesn't become information. It becomes ammunition or vilification, which comes from the family of origin stuff. Wow, I grew up where people who were quote unquote liars were deemed not trustworthy people, not somebody you wanted to hang around with, subpar person. So the fact that I'm a liar, I suppress and I hide from myself. That's what my subconscious does. It suppresses it. And then when I see it in somebody else, I attack it and say, that guy's a liar. He's a no good piece of crap. And when I'm attacking somebody else, there's no way I'm looking back at me. So therefore it stays in the shadow and I don't get to look at it. But now if I have the intention to learn what it means to be Dan Gutierrez, human being, planet Earth, and I know that life is happening for me and other people are my greatest teachers, and then it's like, okay, what is it about his behavior that I don't like about myself, and own it? Now I'm revealing something about my shadow and I can deal with it. It's not whatever the trait is, liar. It is not it's not driving my behavior. When I can see that I am a liar, okay, okay, I can only speak for myself. I am a liar. I don't tell the truth all the time. If the IRS is watching, I cheat on my taxes. I lie about it. Or I tell some kind of lie. I don't, I'm not completely honest. When somebody tells a white lie or something, I'm a liar. Are there degrees? Well, okay. The truth is I'm a liar. Okay. I'm not hiding it from myself. I acknowledge it. So now next time.
And you're not judging yourself.
No, I'm not. But the fact, what happens when I become accountable for it, state it, take a deep breath, and then ask myself, what do I want instead? I'm healing that portion. I'm integrating that portion of myself into the whole again, instead of suppressing it and exiling it to the shadow and to the subconscious. But if I have blame or judgment tied to it, I won't integrate it. Because the ego works on things that are positive, that's culturally acceptable, societally acceptable. The ego learns to keep doing those things. Okay, then what happens if I do something that's not acceptable to society? Drug use, being a liar, a myriad of other things. But when I see them in someone else, and then I go, that sucker's a liar. Ah, okay, good deal. Am I willing to say that I'm a liar? Okay, I'm a liar. What is it I want that I don't have? I intend to be honest. I intend to be trustworthy. This is me putting my energy on focusing on the new. I'm creating a new default setting based on what I discovered through observing somebody else. If I understand the mechanism of owning that judgment, what's that person teaching me about myself? If I don't have energy around something, if I don't sit there and go, God dang it, that guy's a piece of crap. Look at him. He's a liar. He's a cheater. Then I don't have any energy around these things. That's a part of me that I've been suppressing or hiding from myself, because if I have energy around it, that needs healing. That needs integrating.
So I'd like to put the accountability tree up on the screen, Dan, and let's walk through what you just did from the perspective of the accountability tree particularly for the newcomer who, because this is really key. It's not just about um, owning our projections. Or what Dan just did is he owned his projection. That is to say, he saw in somebody else something that he judged negative, so he couldn't own it, or we were taught. I had the same thing, and by the way, everyone watching this has that same psychodynamic. We were taught something was bad, 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 and what basically the fear is, if everybody knows, let's use your phrase there. If everybody knows I'm a liar, I won't be loved anymore. I'll be kicked out.
Correct.
I'll be on my own. So the irony is then we learn to lie even more sophisticatedly to hide our lying. And the double irony of that is most people know when you're lying. But so in the accountability practice, right there in the center where it says power, there it says truth, emotion, I intend. And so here, what you did was you were willing to own the truth. The truth is you saw that out there in somebody else and you said, okay, I'm a liar. And if you look just above to the left and the right of the word truth, you see no blame, no judgment. So we're just stating the data, as it says up there at the very top of the page, stating the data about my behavior without blame or judgment. This is just what I do. I don't tell the truth. Or I judge myself as not telling. Maybe actually maybe I'm not 100% liar, but that's a secret belief I have about myself. And I'm willing to stay it. And
Right.
particularly the first time we do this, there's almost always an emotional response to telling that truth about ourselves. And this is where the power comes. Do you remember the first time you did this practice, Dan, and you owned I'm a liar? Do you remember what you were feeling as a result of that?
Well, yeah, it was like very difficult to do. And I know here's another thing. The more I resist saying it, okay, then that's kind of like the light bulb going off. Well, I'm not a liar, you know? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter. When you say I'm a liar, that doesn't diminish your value as a human being. Okay. But the harder I fight it, the more I don't want to own it. There's more energy there. What I resist persists. So for me, it was like that. Okay, I'm not a liar, and I know full well that I am. And then it's like, okay, well, just say it. Okay, I don't. I'm going to say it, but I don't believe it. Oh, okay, it's got nothing to do with whether you believe it or not. That's the no blame, no judgment part of it. Just be willing to say it. As soon as I said it, I'm a liar. It was like there was just some energy that lifted. I was no longer having to hide it. It was like, oh, there it is. I said it. I'm a liar. And it's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm a liar. You know, and it's like, oh, this ain't so bad. but the truth is I wasn't hiding it from myself. That takes energy.
Well, and
And
just to locate this for people that might be watching us for the first time, we do this work in a group setting. So you are not only not hiding it from yourself anymore, you are also willing to be vulnerable to the other members of the group.
right. And another, it's like we're talking about it in adult terms. Can you imagine what that little boy who figured out that he had to lie so he could stay safe and not be judged and exiled? What are you crying for? I told you not to cry. Don't you feel those feelings? I'll give you something to feel. And it's like, I don't feel nothing. And that becomes a pattern. Denial of myself. That's lying. I don't feel that. Well, that's a lie. But now what we deem as an adult term of lying is a survival strategy, denial of self. Lying is like, oh, well, we don't want you to be that. Good little boys don't get angry. Good little girls don't get angry. Okay, so what are you doing? I'm not angry.
And right there, that it's really important to get what you just said. Think about a little boy or little girl in like a say a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old body, and being put in that vise where whatever you say is going to be wrong. If you disagree with the parent, you're in trouble. But if you tell a lie and you don't disagree, you're in trouble inside. And so you're in a lose-lose kind of situation. And what can you do? All you can do is repress that, because it's hard enough to deal with as a 70-year-old, but try to deal with it as a 4 or 5-year-old. It's really impossible. So all we can do in those moments is psychologically repress that. And I don't know about you, because I can remember being put in that situation. The very first thing I did is get out of there as soon as possible and pretend it never happened.
or for me, there was a question of, hey, how are you doing? How'd school go today? And I learned to lie, because if I opened my mouth and said, oh, we did this, and the teacher told me not to do that, then it was my fault. So, oh, how was your day at school today, Dan? Oh, it was great. What'd you do? Oh, same as yesterday. Did you learn anything? You bet. Can I go outside? Okay.
Yep.
I'm lying right there.
Yeah.
And that becomes a habit, or because as a safety, as a protection mechanism, because no matter how it shows up, I'm lying. I have to hide my authentic self, which is lying.
Right.
I can't be me because it's not socially acceptable, or my family of origin.
So the beauty of the accountability practice, remember at the top of the podcast, we said that we're focusing our energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. That's the Socrates term. And here's the beauty of this process, at least for me, and I know it is for you, is once we have that emotional response to owning a truth that we'd repressed about ourselves, I'm a liar, and having that, whatever shows up, and for most of us, it shows up in our gut. Sometimes, for some of us, it shows up in our face or our neck or our arms, but there's going to be some kind of emotional energy. It could even feel, like you said, it can feel like a release,
Right.
or it could feel like shame. Like I remember the first time I did this, my overwhelming feeling was a feeling of shame. But now my feeling and my speaking are in alignment with each other. I'm speaking a truth, and my body is reacting in its own way, in its truth. And now we
Right.
have the power to move from the past, being stuck with this dilemma of a little kid being what, damned if I do, damned if I don't, to having the power to say what I want instead. And
Correct.
when we do this practice, we usually counsel people to feel what's going on in the moment. That's why I asked you if you could remember what your feeling was there, because whatever it is that we want is going to be connected to that feeling state that we're experiencing now. And oftentimes it's again, I remember the first time I did this, it was the first time I'd ever had that experience. And so it's very, very powerful. And in that emotional state, we can now plant a new truth. What do I want? How do I, it can be, how do I want to feel? How do I want to behave, or both? I intend to be honest. I intend to accept myself, whatever it is.
Right.
And so there's the beauty. There's where the turn occurs. It's like we're no longer stuck in the past. We're no longer seeing it out there in that terrible presidential candidate who blah blah blah. No, I'm owning the truth about myself. Let him be however he is going to be. I don't have any
Right.
power over that, but I have power over how I believe and relate to myself.
Right.
And so the beauty of the accountability tree, and why I know that you and certainly I have such passion for this process, is because it allows us to take this shameful or frightening or terrifying experience of our past and make it something much more powerful. I intend to be powerful. I intend to be open. I intend to be vulnerable, whatever it is. And that statement of I intend takes that truth and then puts it back into our subconscious, where it starts to change. It encounters that old belief and starts to change into this new belief. And we do this however long it takes, because we're exchanging an old habit for a new one. And so that's why I like this. I like your observation that people have something to teach me that's uniquely theirs to teach me, because that person was able to elicit in me a trigger that most people don't elicit from me. Most people might lie, and I don't even care. I don't pay any attention. And then somebody comes along, and that person's lying just gets my goat, and
Right.
therefore that person is uniquely there to teach me if I'm open to learning it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, that's part of the accountability practice is having a really, understanding that the world is my oyster if I say it is. And when I say it is, I create the intention. If my intention is to come to a greater understanding of myself as a human being, then the information that this process generates, I can put to use to support my intention. I was being triggered by people all the time, and I didn't. The only thing that I had subconscious intention was to make them wrong and beat up on them. But now, when I have that same triggering, I understand that that person is valuable to me because they're teaching me something that the other 7,999,999,000 haven't yet. And so therefore I see them as valuable because they're teaching me something about myself that only they can. But it
Yeah,
all comes back to what do I want that I don't have? Because all this information that surfaces is now supports that intention. Because, FYI, all this information has been there before. I just haven't understood what it meant. And now that I know what I want, I understand that it's never about the other person. People teach me about myself, what it is I want. I want to come to a greater understanding of myself as a human being. And then my perception changes. I went from I don't want to be triggered to being triggered is the good thing.
right. That's the good news now,
Yeah, now
instead of
that
the
the good
bad.
news, exactly. It's an opportunity for growth and learning rather than
Right.
being angry and pissed off and trying to get them to stop doing what they're doing. It's like, holy smokes.
and maybe even participate in some level of violence against ourselves or other people, that's not going to be very helpful.
No, you're correct on that.
Well, our time has come to an end here, Dan. So I appreciate the conversation and the insight. And for those of you who are new to this podcast, as I mentioned, we do this work in group, and there's an enormous power. And we'll have a podcast about the power of the group one of these days. But there's an enormous power in doing this work with others, and we have 4 different meetings a week, all on Zoom. And the information on when and how to get on those meetings or get into those meetings will be at the end of the podcast. So we invite you to come join us, ask questions, bring your concerns, bring your triggers, and we'll see what we can create here. So exactly. So as always, Dan, thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the next one.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Good day.